Our special guest this week is a 25-season veteran of the NFL. He spent 2 seasons in Kansas City playing for the Chiefs, and he is the second full-time place kicker in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We are honored to be joined by Morten Andersen as he shares his thoughts on his time in Kansas City as well as kicking in the NFL today.
I just want to say thank you for taking the time to speak with us, and
Yeah.
just having you on as a Pro Football Hall of Famer. It is an honor for you to take the time.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure.
And I just want to get started off by asking you, what inspired you to pursue a career in football?
I think sports has been part of my life since I was 5 years old, so I don't think it was necessarily a decision. I think it was a gradual progression of the love of sport. And it didn't start with football. It started with team handball and soccer, gymnastics. And so I was quite involved in those three sports back in Denmark where I grew up. And then when I came to America on my 17th birthday, that's when I got introduced to the game of football, which was completely foreign to me. I didn't know the rules. I didn't even know the ball wasn't round. So there were a few surprises, when I was introduced to this game and asked to kick a football, which I talk about a little bit in my Hall of Fame speech. If you have a chance, maybe on YouTube, if you have 19 minutes and 33 seconds, Google that.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't already done that. So it kind of explains the whole evolution, with a little bit of humor thrown in, about my immigrant perspective of this introduction to this new game. And I think one of the reasons I had, some success really was the fact that I didn't grow up with the game. I didn't grow up with any preconceived expectations of being great at this game, or some of these young guys now, the protégés, they're molded at a very early age to become, great pro players. And that was never really my intention. My intention was to stay in this country for 10 months as an exchange student and go back home, finish my education in Denmark. But because of the game of football, because I was introduced to it by an enthusiastic head coach, and because I had great teammates, and because we were at a very big school, we were really good. We went all the way to the state semifinals, won 11 games, lost the last game of the season. People started taking notice. So I was, not only I was in the right place at the right time, but surrounded by people that were really good coaches and good players, and a good environment. And then I excelled very quickly at it. Because everybody else were great. So I was like, well, I can't be shitty, I gotta go, I can't embarrass the team. So it was a very quick learning curve, but, it worked out. And then it was off to college. So the sport really fell in my lap, and then I just embraced it. But it was, I think, mostly because of the relationships that I encountered initially. Had it not been a good experience from the start, I think I would have dropped the sport and played, and gone into gymnastics or track and field, which I did. In high school, I was a gymnast in Indianapolis in the winter after football season, and I did run track and field in the spring. And they didn't have a soccer team, so that was part of the reason I didn't have any options in the fall, really. I didn't know how to play basketball, so I had never played. That's not a Danish sport. You're not going to see Denmark in the Olympics in basketball.
Possible.
So, I don't think so, man. Maybe in badminton.
I definitely hear that. And I just find it very interesting that you were saying how you didn't really have the initial desire to play football here. What kept you motivated to play 25 seasons in the NFL?
So that became a career. And so when I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity and be drafted in the 4th round, then the game changed, because now it was a career, and I realized, hey, what's my staying power? That's my performance. Let me get as good as I can. And I'm, human beings are vain individuals most of the time. We like to be good at what we do. I think I was a competitive guy from a very young age. So to me, it was this challenge of embracing this new game and becoming the best at it. Let me be the best at my position that I ever played. Or let me at least try, and then certain people can judge. After it's all done. It was not about, oh, I want to play 25 years. It was about, hey, I'm going to fasten my seatbelt and I'm going to see how long I can play. And I mean, it was almost over in the beginning, quite honestly. I had a miserable first year in the league. I mean, I got hurt on the opening kickoff. My very first kick, I got hurt. I was out for 8 weeks. I had a terrible preseason. I couldn't hit anything. I think it was like 3 for 12, 4 for 12, something terrible. So I'm sure that, the coaching staff was going, holy shit, did we make a mistake with this guy in the 4th round, And then we had a player strike in 82. You're too young, but, I went through 2 players strike in 82 and 87. 82, we went on strike to get pensions and benefits for that everybody's enjoying now. That means there was work stoppage for, I want to say, almost 3 months. And then in 87, we went on strike again for free agency, which is a huge deal now. I mean, everybody's getting paid big bucks because they're allowed to move from team to team. Before 87, you weren't allowed to move. The team owned you in perpetuity. I don't know if you knew that.
That's it's a very interesting time. I've read the stories back in the day, but for you to have to go through that, is amazing. Yeah.
And so I think that toughened you up too, and that kind of made you resilient and stubborn. And I think those are traits you got to have to be a successful NFL player. If you want to play at the highest level, I watched the whole Jordan documentary, and he was a stubborn son of a gun, right? He wasn't very likable, he wasn't very he didn't compromise his standards. He was like, hey, get on my train or get off it, and I kind of felt the same way. Like, if I didn't have teammates around me that made me better, I bitched and complained about it. I try to make them better, but your team gets better by getting better players, or the players they have better. Those are the 2 choices you have. And I wanted to win, and we didn't win for a while in New Orleans, and then we started winning. And we won more than any other team in the late 80s. We didn't go deep in the playoffs, but we won more games than anybody in a 5-year span, even more than the 49ers and the Bears and the Giants. But I don't know if I answered your question. You learn about me. You give me a question, I'll talk for 10 minutes. You're just gonna have to go back and decipher what you can use.
It's all great. Like I said, just to hear all your stories and your perspective on everything is really what we're looking for. And obviously, with us covering the Chiefs, I do have to ask you about your 2 seasons in Kansas City.
Yeah,
you actually made a game-winning field goal on your first game.
Officially. Oh, it was the wildest game I've ever played in. Against the Cleveland Browns. It was a high-scoring game.
Yes.
Did you watch the game? Were you? I don't know how old you are.
I do remember the game. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I do remember watching the highlights back then.
We were in Cleveland. It was the new stadium. I think it might have been one of the first, if not the first season of that stadium, or it was close to being that. And I remember it was hot, very hot there, and in September, and back and forth, and then that crazy penalty against Rudd, the Cleveland defensive end, who thought he sacked Trent Green, threw his helmet, and then our guy Tate, Green threw the ball to an eligible offensive lineman who scampered down the sideline, finally got tackled, and then 15 yards for unsportsmanlike was tagged on. Game can't end on a defensive penalty. One more on-time play with 0-0-0 on the clock, and we're down by, I think we were actually trailing by 2 points, or it was tied or something. It was a game winner. And and just being able to put it through. And I have a picture in my office where the whole team kind of has me lifted up. Eric Hicks got me by the knees, and my junk's right in his face. I'm like, oh, I don't know if Eric envisioned that. I don't think that was his intention. I got this picture of just pure joy by all the teammates, and I'm up there, with my big oversized bobblehead helmet on. It was funny, man.
It's definitely a classic moment in Chiefs history, and it's just so interesting that it was your first game. I do have to follow up and ask you just what were your thoughts on the atmosphere playing in Arrowhead Stadium?
So the way I best can describe that actually was when I was with the New York Football Giants on September 10th. The week we didn't play football after 9/11, and then we played the following week, and we had to go to Arrowhead. The Giants did, to play the Chiefs. And it's the only game in 25 years where I was on the visiting side where the home fans gave the visiting team a standing ovation. So imagine as you're running into Arrowhead Stadium, 80,000 Chiefs fans stood up. And for like minutes, applauded. It was very powerful, man.
That is amazing. This is obviously right after 9/11.
Yeah, we experienced 9/11. We had played Denver on Monday night and came back that morning at 6 a.m. and then all hell broke loose around 9 o'clock in Manhattan and Pentagon and so forth. We actually, I was told later, our United flight was parked next to Flight 93 that went down in Pennsylvania. So we landed, and that plane was, sitting there ready to leave. And in New Jersey, Newark Airport. But so to best describe Chiefs fans would be that game. And then, of course, being on the home side, it was fantastic. And driving, when you drove to the game, I lived in Mission Hills, which was about a 20-minute drive to the stadium, just surface roads, and I just took my time and from the plaza and through there and out to the stadium. And you could see, from quite a ways out, you could see smoke, and you go, oh, yeah, that's Arrowhead, and you start smelling the barbecue, And then as you got closer, there would be like a gauntlet of fans welcoming you through, all the way up to the stadium. It was just, very, very unique, situation. And the fans and how they were with that football team, because Kansas City is kind of you got the Royals, and you have the MLS team, and then you have Kansas basketball, right? Yeah. But it's the Chiefs, So I was, it was great to see them win the big game for sure, man. Because I knew that how much that meant and how long that had been. 50 years since they won the last one with Stenerud and Len Dawson. They beat the Vikings, or I can't remember.
No, I definitely, and I appreciate your view on that. And before we let you go, I have to ask, what are your thoughts on Harrison Butker, the current kicker for the Chiefs, and also your thoughts on the way the NFL. It seems like the kicker position has been like switched around a lot in regards to in during the season. There's a lot of changes. There isn't that consistent one kicker per team like back when you played. It just seems like they kind of just do a kicker every other week depending on the performance.
Yeah, they're really quick to pull the trigger on that position for some reason. I think it's a great luxury, and you have to be really smart about your personnel. People have to understand that that's points on the board, you know what I mean? And so to Harrison Butker is unbelievable. I met him at Georgia Tech, talked to him and his dad for a little bit, and he's going to be around for a long time. He's a weapon, and so they have to understand that. Personnel people have to understand that's points on the board, and if you keep playing Russian roulette, if you keep playing like flavor of the week on that position, you're not going to have any stability there, So the Chiefs have stability. I don't know why they got rid of Colquitt. That was a shock to me. Money, I guess.
Completely understand. Morten, thank you for taking the
thanks,
time.
Ed, and we'll get back together again if you want. It was a pleasure meeting you, man.